Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. And I want to say Shalom to Yaakov Nakwat out there, pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And this one is I have the original page up that it happened on, but it's been removed. It's been about, you know, let me check I deleted them from my phone, so it's been a few days. I don't necessarily have the day for it, but there was this lesson that was made by the Apostle Gabar titled Yahweh Shai must come back to set up his kingdom here on this earth. Okay, which is true, absolutely. But there was a comment that was made, and I checked, and it's deleted. All right, so Lord willing, you know, the apostle doesn't mind that I still, you know, touch on it. I wouldn't want it on my channel either, because it's just ignorant and it's stupid, right? But more so talking about these mockers and these scoffers. This guy here, and you know, if the apostle happens to see this video and you don't, you know, want it, and you know, you just you know, comment, and I'll take the video down. And slack you ahead of time if so. But when I saw it, I said I want to make a lesson about this, because these people think it's all fun and games to do and say whatever they want. But when Yahushua comes back, or even before Yahushua comes back, as we keep on getting closer and closer to his return, you guys are going to really start regretting a lot of the things that you did and said, man. All right? As they would say, eating your words. Because it's going to be bad for you, man. It's just going to be bad for you. I can't, you know, we're not going to go into super big detail why it's going to be what every single thing could happen to you. There's a million things in one. There's a million ways to die. Choose one. All right? And you're messing with the people, all right, the Lord's people that he's appointed, all right, to teach the nation of Israel. So how do you think your judgment's going to go? It's not going to be well, okay? And this guy, Frater Lupus Rex, which means in Roman, brother Wolf King, or, you know, which is stupid. But you can see what he said right here. Just spell this backwards, all right? So it's ERGGINNIGGER. What do we think that is? We know what that is, all right? And the funny thing to me is that you're too scared to just post it as it is. You got to turn about, well, to get banned. Why are you scared of getting banned? Speak what you mean, man. Be who you are. You don't have to be scared and put it backwards. And the other thing that was just perplexing to me is that it wasn't just one time. He had 14 comments, all right, on the Apostle Gabar's channel. And you see, all right, these blocks. And you zoom out, you can see what it's clearly saying, all right? And like I said, I couldn't see. It only lets you see, like, the last two. It doesn't let you see all of them. I wish I could see every single comment that he made, because I'm sure some of them I'm sure all of them are just heinous, right? But what was a big interest to me, and you can see he even did it over here again. He went on this page, right? This isn't the original one that I saw. The original one I saw was this photo, and I can't remember. It was on one of the ones, I think it was dealing with Aaron Russo when he was going on that in the New World Order and the Federal Reserve, and you know, it was about 2 weeks ago. I think that was the original one. But, or maybe not. Maybe it was a little bit sooner. But he kept commenting on a bunch of the videos. Yahushua must come back. This one was if you could just, I don't even know what that one was, but that one's gone. You know, there's so many different comments. At least 14. All right, 14 comments. He's got a 14 in his name. Interesting. Just interesting in general. But he did it to this brother right here, Yala Banyamyan, all right, 144, and he was saying one of the only people I've seen spell the Savior's name correctly, Yahushai, and of course the this is talking about this comment right here, okay, but it's Yahushai, not Yahweh with W-A-H, it's W-A and then S-H-I, not W-A-H-S-H-I. Okay, so the Father's name is Yahweh, W-A-H, but the Son, you know, that H falls off. Okay, just with with linguistics, grammatic accuracy. All right. But yeah, so if you go here, you can see lupus means wolf, which is funny. All right, because wolves throughout the Bible are usually, you know, of course, Benjamin had the symbol of the wolf, but other than that, most of the time it was used for people who are snake-like, all right, wolfish, all right. They're really violent in disguise. They're not people you'd want to trust. But yeah, he did this at least 14 times, probably more than now, all right, because he's had the time to go on. And it was just interesting to me because we don't get mad at like something an Edomite does and then go like comment on his page. Like I'm not gonna go over to like a Donald Trump page, right, and be like honky, you cracker, all right, you fucking, you sunburned kid, all right, blue-eyed devil, all right. I'm not gonna go and or type it backwards, all right. It's gonna be cracker but backwards. I'm not gonna do that, okay. It's just hilarious to me. You can go ahead and call me a ninja if you want. I mean, but once you see what I look like, it's gonna fucking perplex you. All right, you can call me whatever. You can call me a ninja lover or a what else do they say? They say like a what is it? There's another word that they use. I can't remember, but it was just funny to me because it's just like this guy doesn't know how big of a punishment he's getting himself ready for. All right, you're calling the apostles the Lord's appointed men, all right, by bywords. That's a little crazy, man. That's a little crazy. But all right, hey, to each your own, to each their own. But this is all prophetic. This is all through the scriptures, right? This is all we knew things were like this were gonna happen, all right? Because we have the Bible. I don't know necessarily what this guy and accidentally closed out. Give me 1 minute. Let me pause this. We're back. Slacky. I was still going through here, but this is his whole thing here. Frater Lupus Rex, 12 subscribers, 8 videos. And the videos that he makes, look, racial integration idea so good it must be forced at a bayonet point. All right, why are the blacks so violent? That's what this guy Wolf King. Let's go over there real quick. I guess he's got a couple pages. I guess this is him playing guitar. Let's see. I bet he sucks. Hold up. This shit's horrible. You could use a little bit more delay there, dude. Horrible. This is his second page, right? He has all these different videos. I guess it's just these, right? Not short, but we're looking for his other page. I don't want to hear that shit again. There we go. This is his other page. Let's see some of these videos that we got going. Here's one. You got a lot of people that like it, right? LOL. Right? Did you get hit in the head as a toddler? That's great. This person says like and subscribe. That's them. 34 counts. So, this was peak in 2024. Why is your name in Hindu? You're a retard. It's in Latin. It says drink whatever your mama keeps on the cabinet. It's good for you. There he goes again, calling someone a ninja. All right, that's his favorite word. It's funny because if you go and you actually look at his page, at least the other one where it had him playing the guitar, you can tell by his arms that he's clearly a man that's probably in his like around his 40s, generally, with the way his arms are. Either that or he's younger and he's constantly out in the sun and he's aging like hell. But he acts like like a 12-year-old kid that just like found out about the word. But let's see what this is. Is this a video? Is this a
But
voiceover?
Jared, why are black people so violent? Why are black people violent?
Okay, you want the answer to that question?
I do. I want to know the answer.
It's a combination of low average IQ and high serum testosterone combined with a lesser ability to defer gratification. Because the combination of low IQ and high testosterone, no matter what the race of the person, makes a man more likely to commit crimes, primarily of violence, but other crimes as well. Furthermore, an inability to defer gratification. And you can prove this if you take a group of white children, a group of black children, and you say to them, you have a choice of either 1 marshmallow now or 3 marshmallows a half an hour from now.
That's the Stanford marshmallow experiment. And guess what? White kids were known to fail that. So nice try. Nice try. Nice try. All right. You can go look into that. The Stanford marshmallow experiment. All right. And there's actually a video. Here you go.
Sure. All right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then you'll have two. But stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? All right.
She's gonna cave.
I'm gonna go do something and then I'll come back.
It smells yummy. It smells really good.
Fair use, by the way. Fair use. I don't make any money off these videos. I'm allowed to use the video.
All right, so it's up to you. You can have it now or you can
See,
wait.
they're taking chunks off. They already failed. They couldn't wait. These are all white kids. So, what are you talking about?
I'll be back. Stay in the chair, okay? Okay.
See, and that shows you, Esau trying to get around the rules at a very young age. They're like, okay, I'm not going to eat the marshmallow. I'm just going to pick pieces off of it and eat it because technically I didn't do it. So, there you go. And mind you, the Stanford marshmallow experiment, you know, was ruled with all. Now, everything's rooted in systemic racism. So, if we looked it up, who failed most? Roughly 67% of the children failed. All right. 600 children. Let's see. Children from wealthier backgrounds tended to wait longer, suggesting a correlation between economic stability and the ability to delay gratification. All right. So it's not necessarily about race and lower IQ. All right. It's about supply and demand. If you are not used to having something, all right, or you're not you're not stable enough to let that sit there and potentially be taken away, you're going to eat it now, right? So there are that. It says the children who failed were typically observed to be more impulsive in early and smaller smaller studies were linked to higher stress, lower academic performance, that would be IQ, and higher BMI later in life. It means they got fat because they like food. So, and mind you, most of the kids tested in the Stanford marshmallow experiment. What race primarily? Look at that. Children were predominantly from white, middle, upper class educated families. So what are we talking about? What are we talking about? So why are they so violent? You say a low average IQ with high testosterone. Okay, and it leads them to commit violent crime. Well, that would mean, what about all the Epstein files? That means they all have, violent crimes are linked to low IQ, high testosterone. That must mean those guys all had low IQ, high testosterone. No, that's different. Now, how is it different? See, when it comes to the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American population, the whites, all right, the Edomites is really what they really are. They like to correlate, violence with lack of intelligence. But they only do it for black folk, mind you. The Mongolians and all the horrible the tirades, the Crusades, the Mongolians, the Chinese, Imperial Japan, Americans and what they've done throughout, that's never correlated as low IQ. All right, but as soon as it happens to be a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American, and primarily they do it with the Negroes the most, now it's an issue of IQ. All right, you see how that's and this is what literally is considered systemic racism. Okay, it says now there is no lower sort of degenerate than a white supremacist. Absolutely. How can you be a white supremacist when you're the only ones primarily that get skin cancer? Okay, you burn in the fucking sun. Okay, you have a whole host of diseases that only affect you. Sure, Jake has some too, like what, sickle cell anemia. There's some other things, higher rates of diabetes and some other higher rates from like obesity. But white people get a lot of. You guys are heavily anemic. All right, anemia. If you look up anemia, it might say black people because again, it's racism. But what race has anemia the most? And it should say white Europeans because that's the fact. They say black non-Hispanic individuals have the high prevalence of anemia across all ages and gender. That's just not factual. Okay, they say black female have the most, and then black males at 10%. White anemia prevalence increases with age. Most people that are anemic, all right, are white. Okay, and when you go in now, if you didn't count sickle cell anemia, because that is of course a type of anemia that only targets black people. If you get rid of that, you're going to see anemia is most prevalent amongst white people. But again, this is what systemic racism is. What does systemic mean? What is systemic?
Systemic.
Okay, relating to a system in the government, all right? And government's all entwined with science and medical, right? So that's what systemic racism is. And, there's a whole lot of it. If you want to learn more about the medical side, you can look into a book called Medical Apartheid, okay? There's a book called Medical Apartheid, and Jake, Jake won't, a lot of them aren't going to read it because they don't care, because a lot of people just don't give a shit, all right? And Edomites, they don't want you to read that book, all right? Of course, it was written by a black woman, and there's a lot of information in there that's factual, okay? It came out in 06, 07, and there's a lot of information in there that Esau would never admit to, okay? Let's finish this up.
Asian children are more likely to say, well, I'll wait and I'll get the 3 marshmallows.
Well, Asian kids are actually direct descendants of inbred, all right, of inbred individuals. So no, they're not intelligent. They're intelligent. Again, the way you classify intelligence, the way the white man at least classifies intelligence is not according as how it should be done. The main way that the white man classifies intelligence is willingness to comply. For example, if you can build a car, build an engine, build a rocket engine, code, and build computers and do all these different things and, read at well above a college level, they're not going to consider you intelligent if they say, hey, stand on one foot, for 10 seconds and then you don't do it. All right. Meanwhile, the person that can't do any of those things but stands on their foot for 10 seconds, as a matter of fact, goes 20 seconds and says, I just want to comply. They're going to label that person as more at a higher level of intelligence because it's about the willingness to comply. Or IQ is the willingness to follow come on now, brain. The way IQ is judged is the willingness to be able to, the willingness to comply, essentially, and to be able to follow a task in the exact way that they want to and not think outside of a box. For example, they want 1 + 1, put the 1 on top and do it that way. If you found some other way to do it, all right, they'd be like, no, that's not the correct way. All right, how is IQ judged? And that's the problem. You know, a lot of people don't look into things, right? Now they say using standardized tests to measure cognitive abilities like logic, memory, and verbal comprehension, resulting in a score that compares an individual to their age peer group. All right, and that's just not true. It's based on IQ is judged on compliance. And they're going to say it's not, but it is. Okay. They said, based on the provided search results, the term IQ in context of compliance refers to the installation gratification, IQ, a technical and regulatory validation process used in industries like pharmaceutical manufacturing, medical. No, that's not what we're talking about. But whatever. It's a willingness to comply. All right, and do it the way they want it to be done. All right. It's saying there's a lot of puzzles. If you go ever looking at IQ test, I don't know if you ever taken one. I've taken one like once in my life. And the ones online are usually not accurate. They're similar to how a real IQ test is, but they're not exactly right. But it's a lot of pattern recognition. All right, that's the main thing that happens with IQ is pattern recognition, and or puzzles. All right, and in another way, and most of them have one way, but it depends. You know, Esau does things weird. There's a certain level where, for a certain level of intelligence, you have to comply, but after a certain level, they said with the highest intelligence gap, the IQ scores actually start to fall. Believe that or not. Look, is it true that after a certain number of IQ, the scores start to drop? And it's true. That's a flawed system, and it's true because they start to think so outside of the box that the confines of the test don't even make sense to them, and the people that are testing them can't even understand what they're talking about because they're on such a high level, right? It says, yes, evidence indicates that an average IQ scores. Well, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about that after a certain point, after a certain level of intelligence, test scores drop. It's not getting it. It's not getting it. Flynn effect. No. But anyway, what they did is they noticed with testing, all right, whatever it happened to be, you know, an incline, all right, the number would go up and up and up and up and up and up and up, right, to a certain point of intelligence, all right. Once you get to a crazy IQ, 140 or whatever, then it's going to start to drop, okay? And why? It's because they think so outside of the box that you're really not able to test them on any regular level because they're thinking in such a like abstract state of mind that it's no longer comprehensible to the average person, right?
And the Asian are the most likely, then comes whites, then comes blacks. Black children want that one marshmallow now, even if it means they don't get 3 marshmallows in a half an hour. That's
crazy because in the video it was all white kids and they all failed. But sure. Look right here. Globe. It says the problem being there is absolutely no credible scientific evidence that says melatonin in the skin affects your IQ, testosterone, or so-called ability to handle delayed gratification. Zero credible links between learning ability and race. None whatsoever. Show me the peer-reviewed research. You won't because you can't. Guys like this love spouting their theories at people that don't actually understand science enough to rebuke them. I do, and it's horseshit. And of course, he responded, but it won't let me see what it says, which is interesting. You know, and this guy is a fucking, you know, this guy is really a ninja. That's what he is, all right, in the 1800 sense of the word, all right? Now, we got to go back to the old definition, because it meant dark skin, all right, by the word Neger, all right, which is Greek. But then they start, you know, Esau being dumb as shit, they can't pronounce it correctly, so they started calling it this. But it originally meant dark, but after that they changed the word. It should say, you know, lack of intelligence. Let's see. You can see right here with the Jim Crow Museum, it talks about, it was a shorthand way of saying that black people possessed the moral, intellectual, social, and physical characteristics of a coon brute, right, and so on and so forth. But it was created during slavery, but originally, the original word that they used it for was a lack of intelligence. And the word wasn't really created during slavery, all right? It'd been older, but they just started using it. Let's see. If you get an old dictionary, okay? This one's usually the one used for Bible, but if I can find a PDF. And usually these big books like this take forever to search, but we'll see. We'll leave that to go. But again, yeah, so non-credible. All right, and this guy is just loves throwing around that word. And anyway, we've rambled on long enough. We got to go and get some scriptures. But let me go ahead and as there was, come on now. Let me go ahead and find it. Come on now. It only goes to I. Well, what a waste of time. Alright, well, anyway. Get some scriptures here. Jude 1:18 and 19. Alright, because this has all been prophesied. It says, how that they told you there should be mockers in the last time, who should walk after their own ungodly lusts. These be they who separate themselves, sensual, having not the Spirit. And of course, they don't have the Spirit, because in this case, these people are Edomites, okay, that we're dealing with. So, mockers. What does it mean to mock? All right, what is a mocker? Okay, a mocker is a person who scoffs, derides, or treats others with contempt. Okay, I love this part. Primarily, the term refers to someone who ridicules wisdom or mocks people in an unkind manner. All right, it doesn't matter about being unkind. It's you're essentially mocking or making a jest at intelligence and wisdom. All right, which shows the lack of yours. 1 minute. Which shows the lack of yours. And really, you know, Esau is the lowest of the low. All right, even the Lord said, He said, I shall make you low among the heathen. So everything that they say about us, calling us dumb and racist or grapists or thugs or violent or brutish or this or that, really that's what they call in the psychological sense a projection. Okay, they're projecting. Okay, if you ever seen their little, you know, rich parties that they have, they look like kids just cosplaying. Okay, and you can do and say whatever you want, but when you look into the real history and you look into the Bible, man, you were made as a servant. Okay, Esau, you were made as a servant. It's just after that 1,000 years, you were after that, you know, when you were given the dominion to, all right, you broke those chains from off you, all right, because of course, you know, a lot of things happened. Israel was going off, and it was all prophesied. Everything had to happen for a reason. So you were allowed to get ahead of Israel, okay, to basically put us into captivity and do the little things that you want to do, all right, for punishment. But you went completely out of hand. You went completely overboard. And that's fine, right? That's fine. You're going to get paid back for that, and you're going to have to go into captivity. And you can scoff, you can mock right now. It's fine. And I love Esau's little pseudoscience. It's fun because it's always just half-baked truths. But when you get the scriptures, they say, oh, that's half-baked truth. But if you really truly understood and you actually really read and you really had any level of spiritual comprehension, which you don't because the Lord hasn't given it to you through His Holy Spirit, then you would understand the scripture. The scriptures are pretty plain once you have the spirit. All right, at least some of them are. Some are a little bit more hard to understand. You need to really break them down and understand history to get the mystery. But other scriptures are pretty plain. All right, he who leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. That's plain. That's pretty plain right there, man. Okay, so. But if you want to mock, hey, you have the ability to do so right now. You have the illusion of free choice, and it's gonna be horrible for you, man. I wouldn't even be in the same city as you, right? So Galatians 6 and 7, it says, "Be not deceived." Okay, don't get it twisted, right? Yahweh is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. And by you coming on to the apostles page and calling them, making ad hominem attacks and calling them by bywords and doing all the things that you do, you're essentially mocking the Lord, right? Why? Because if the scripture even says if they hated you, it's because before they hated you, they hated me. All right, and that's really why you're saying that to those men, is because you hate them. Okay, you hate them you hate the Lord. Excuse me, you hate the Lord, and because you hate the Lord, you hate them, right? And that's fine, right? You're allowed to do that. That's okay, right? But be not deceived. Yahweh is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. You know what that means, Esau? Let's go get in the Good News translation to the left. It says, "Do not deceive yourselves. No one makes a fool of the Lord. You will reap exactly what you plant." If you planted a bomb going off, guess what you're going to reap? A bomb going off. If you planted good things, guess what you're going to get? Good things. Okay? And you're over here planting wickedness. So what do you think you're going to get back? Good things? A handshake and a hug? All right? A trip to Build-A-Bear? No, man. You're going to get judgment, death, destruction. And we don't care about you. Okay? We don't care. All right? It's going to happen to you because of your evilness, your wickedness, man, that you've done. Okay? And then half the time when you talk to these racist-ass Edomites, they like to say, oh, you're dumb because we slip up on a word, or we might stumble in our speech or say something. But if you listen to what we say and, or somebody stuttering, or getting mixed up with their words, all right, and you just slow down and listen to what they say, 9 times out of 10, they're saying something that's meaningful. Meanwhile, these Edomites will talk in big, long words that don't mean shit. All right, it was an approximate at 3:45 today that we had the clearancy to talk about the distinguishing that we had. Just saying some shit, and it's not, wow, that's really profound, and it's not. It's not. That's doublespeak. Just a big jumble up of big words. All right, anybody could do that. All right, we are going to study the approximation of the truth of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai through this bibliography that he had happened to write in the year of this year. No, we're not. For what? To make ourselves seem more intelligent? Right? For nothing? Hereby, let's read, starting at the absolute first notion of this specific occurrence that we're deeply looking into to find some reverberation between the previous loaded scripture that we got just a moment ago. I hereby start in this verse to let you know. No. Why? For what? For what? For what? Why would we do that? What would we do that for? Look how smart we are. Look at our words. No, that doesn't make you smart. Okay? Using big words don't make you smart. Okay? Knowing them, sure. Knowing them is gonna give you a higher level of intelligence if you know how to see those words and interpret them. But using them constantly is just absolutely retarded. Okay? Absolutely retarded. And if you look into the real studies, the people with higher intelligence, they've done studies and they found out they're more likely to make bad decisions, all right, because their brain craves, what would I say? Not adrenaline. It craves mystery, all right? Their brain craves mystery, so they're more likely to make bad decisions. Not saying that that's what you should do, but there's studies on it. They're also more likely to use drugs. All right, that's a state. They say, oh, people that use drugs that's low intelligence. They've done studies and they found out that that's not the case. All right, because the higher intelligence you are, the more curious you are about things, so the more you're gonna look into things. As what they say at least, right? But that can also backshoot into lack of intelligence by destroying yourself in a sense. So, that's kind of one of those interesting concepts that you can look in. It's half-baked truths of Esau, right? But 2 Chronicles 36 and 16, this is talking about Israel doing it. So if Israel's doing it, You know, the people of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, the people of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, excuse me, if they're doing it and they're despising the Lord and they're mocking the prophets, you don't think you're not going to? We already knew all these things. 2 Corinthians 36:16, it says, but they mocked the messengers of Yahweh, despised his words, and misused his prophets, until the wrath of the Lord arose against his people, till there was no remedy. And that's dealing with his people, the Israelites. So what do you think he's going to do to you? Okay, what do you think he's going to do to you? Nothing good. All right, nothing good at all. All right, and then finally, we're going to close out with this, Ecclesiasticus 27 and 28. It says, mockery and reproach are from the proud, but vengeance as a lion shall lie and wait for them. And that's all we got, man. That's all we got to say. So you can go and mock and, you know, say all these different things, and we know you're proud. All right, like it says mockery and reproach are from the proud. And Esau, there's no one more proud than Esau. All right, and what's going to happen? It says, but vengeance as a lion shall lie and wait for them. So what is vengeance? All right, what is vengeance? Well, let's go. Actually, before we do it, let's go and get the definition. All right, vengeance. It's revenge. You know, essentially getting your lick back, punishing somebody for evil that they've done. It says vengeance, punishment inflicted or retribution exacted for injury or a wrong. Getting your lick back. They did you wrong. You're gonna go and do them wrong. Right. So there you go. So, and the Lord's gonna have his get back. All right, and he's allowed to because he's the one who made the rules. And he's going to get his get back on you. You said that against him? Cool. You want to inflict harm like that? Cool. He's inflict harm on you. But it's like a lion, all right, waiting for you. All right, in that little corner that you have no knowledge about. All right, behind that wall, and you're going to walk past that wall, and it's going to jump out and whack your ass, and guess what? It's going to be bad for you, but whatever. Don't say you weren't warned. All right, we don't really care. All right, don't come crying to us whenever whatever happens. Doesn't really bother us none. All right, so enjoy it. Have fun with it. Frater Lupus Rex 14. Hopefully you get better with your guitar. Not so good at it right now. But hey, man, to each their own, right? But anyway, that's where we're going to close out. All right, Lord, what was edifying again. All praise, honor, and glory to the Most High. Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Shalom to you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring. Keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing. Shalom.